So here's the thing about last night. I keep replaying it in my head like a bad movie I can't stop watching. We were at this restaurant Carlos wouldn't shut up about for months. Downtown, all moody lighting and overpriced small plates. The place was buzzing because some local team won something. Honestly, I tuned out the sports talk within the first 5 minutes. I was actually enjoying myself at first. Which makes this so much worse, looking back. Carlos's college friends Alex and Becky were there. Nice enough people. We don't have that easy rhythm you get with your own friends, you know? The kind where you can just be quiet and nobody thinks it's weird. So I was mostly listening, laughing at the right moments, feeling that familiar pinch of being the outsider. But it was fine. I'm used to it. Then Alex asked how we met. Innocent question. The kind you ask married couples at dinner. I remember I was reaching for my wine, and I felt Carlos shift next to me. That tense thing he does with his jaw. I should have noticed. I opened my mouth to answer. I was going to tell the story about the coffee shop, the way he spilled his drink, and we both just started laughing, but he cut me off. She basically begged me to date her. The words hit the table like something heavy dropped. I froze with my glass halfway to my mouth. I actually thought he was joking. That's how stupid I was. Look at her, he said, and he gestured at me. Just waved his hand in my direction like he was pointing out a piece of furniture. Desperate, average, and lucky I was bored enough to say yes. Alex and Becky did that laugh. You know the one. Where nobody actually thinks something's funny but nobody wants to be the one to acknowledge how uncomfortable they are. I couldn't speak. My face was burning. I was gripping that wine glass so hard I could feel the stem digging into my palm. The appetizers came. People started reaching for food, probably hoping the moment would just dissolve. Not Carlos though. He took a slow sip of his whiskey, swirled it around, and said, honestly, I'm only still with her because I don't have time to train someone hotter. Alex muttered, damn, bro, it wasn't a challenge, just acknowledgement. Like, hey, that was a thing that was said. Becky became extremely interested in her phone. Nobody told him to stop. I finally managed, Carlos, what the hell? And the way he looked at me. I can't stop seeing it. Like I was something he'd stepped in. Then he turned to Alex and Becky and rolled his eyes. See what I mean? So sensitive. Can't take a joke. This is what I deal with every single day. He'd had 3 whiskeys by then. Something about having an audience just lit him up. He kept going, something about how I acted all confident when we met, then turned clingy and needy after we got married. Always asking where he is, who he's texting. Carlos, stop, I said. What? I'm just being honest. They're my friends. They deserve to know the real you. Then he told them I check his phone when he's in the shower. I've never done that. Not once. The accusation made my stomach turn. Becky tried to save it. Maybe we should order more drinks. But Carlos waved her off like she was interrupting his big moment. No, I'm just getting to the good part. You want to know why I really married her? Nobody answered. Nobody stopped him. He leaned in and looked right at me. Let's be real. No one else wants her. I'm doing her a favor. Something inside me just snapped. Not loud and dramatic. Quiet. Clean. Like a thread finally breaking. I stood up. Carlos looked at me with that smirk, waiting to see what I'd do. What the desperate average woman would do. I grabbed my full glass of Coke and held it over his head just long enough for him to realize I wasn't playing. Then I poured the whole thing on him. Watched it soak into his hair, run down his face, darken his stupid shirt. He just sat there, shocked and dripping. Pathetic. I grabbed my purse and walked out. Behind me, I heard Alex say, holy shit. My hands were shaking before I even hit the sidewalk. I couldn't get my keys out of my bag. I just stood there staring at traffic, feeling this wild mix of rage and something that almost felt like laughter. Not because it was funny. Because it was so completely insane that this was my life now. My hands were sticky with Coke. And all I could think was, did I just end my marriage with a soda? I sat in our car for I don't even know how long. The parking lot was mostly empty, just rows of cars under those orange lights that make everything look weird and dreamlike. My phone kept buzzing in my bag. I didn't look at it. I just sat there with my hands on the steering wheel, watching them shake. When I finally drove home, I kept expecting to feel something huge. Relief, maybe. Or regret. But there was just this hollow numbness, like my whole body had gone to sleep. The apartment was dark when I got in. I stood in the entryway and just looked. His jacket on the hook. His shoes by the door. The stupid mug he uses for coffee sitting on the counter with that dried ring at the bottom. Everything exactly where we left it when we got dressed for dinner. Like we were just two normal people who'd be back in a few hours. I thought about throwing that mug at the wall. I even picked it up. But then I thought about cleaning shattered ceramic off the floor at midnight and just put it back. I washed my hands in the bathroom. The water ran pink from the Coke, then clear. I stared at myself in the mirror for a long time. Same face as this morning. Same everything. But different. I changed into old sweatpants and a hoodie I've had since college. Left the front light on, I don't know why. Maybe because leaving it dark felt like admitting I wasn't coming back. Carlos didn't come home that night. I heard the buzzer around 1 a.m. Once, twice, then just holding it down, that long annoying buzz that sounds angry even when it's not. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling and didn't move. Eventually it stopped. My phone lit up every 15 minutes. Calls, texts, his name getting angrier each time. At 2 a.m. I blocked his number. I got maybe 3 hours of sleep. When my alarm went off I just stared at the ceiling some more, then got up and made coffee like a zombie. Here's the part that still makes me laugh, if you can call it laughing. I actually thought maybe he'd wake up this morning and realize what he did. Send something like, "I'm so sorry, I don't know what came over me." Something. Anything. Instead, the first thing I saw when I unblocked him, "Yeah, I know, I'm pathetic," was a wall of texts. "You embarrassed me. You owe me an apology. You're blowing this way out of proportion. Alex and Becky think you're crazy. You need to come fix this. Not when I'm sorry. Not even close." I sat on the edge of the bed and read them all twice. Then I started typing this long message, every angry thought I'd been saving up, and my thumb hovered over send for probably a full minute. Then I deleted it. What was the point? He didn't care about understanding me. He just wanted to win. That's what it's always been with Carlos, I think. The need to be right, to be the smartest guy in the room, to have everyone looking at him. Even if it means stepping on whoever's standing closest. That realization hit me harder than anything he actually said. It's not about me. It never was. It's about him needing to feel above someone, and I just happen to be the someone he married. I don't even know if he believes the things he says. Maybe he does. Maybe he's just that good at convincing himself. I got dressed. Didn't shower, couldn't stand the thought of being in that bathroom another minute. I grabbed my keys and drove to my parents' house. Yeah, I know. I'm 32 years old. I should have my life together. But honestly? At that moment, I needed my mom. She opened the door and took one look at me and just knew. Didn't even ask. Just pulled me inside and started going into mom mode. Coffee? Toast? Do you want a blanket? I sat at their kitchen table, same table I've sat at since I was a kid, and told them everything. My mom kept asking if he hit me. When I said no, she looked almost disappointed. Like she wanted a clear, simple reason to hate him. My dad didn't say anything. He just sat in his chair with his jaw clenched and his hand wrapped around the armrest so tight his knuckles were white. A full minute of silence. Then he got up, walked out of the room, and I heard the garage door open a few minutes later. I didn't ask where he was going. The morning stretched out. I drank coffee I didn't want. Checked my phone. Pretended to read emails. My mom kept finding things to do in the kitchen, hovering without hovering. Around noon, Becky texted. She never texts me. Like, ever. So I already knew it was bad before I even opened it. "Hey, are you okay?" Then, Alex says Carlos is freaking out. He's telling everyone you lost it and attacked him in public. Then, but I know what really happened. I stared at that for 5 solid minutes. Becky. The same Becky who sat there scrolling Instagram while my husband tore me apart. Now she wants to be Switzerland. I typed back, "Thanks. I'm fine." She responded immediately, "He's calling everyone. He's saying you were drunk. That you embarrassed yourself. That he tried to calm you down." I almost choked on my coffee. I wasn't even drinking. I had a Coke, I wrote. He had 3 whiskeys. "Yeah, I know," she said. "But he's in damage control mode." I put my phone down. That's when it hit me. If I didn't do something, this was going to become the crazy wife story. And Carlos would win, because that's what Carlos does. He spins and spins until you don't know which way is up anymore. So I posted on my Instagram story. Just a picture of my empty wine glass from last night, the one I barely touched. Caption: sometimes you realize you were the only sober person in the room. Petty? Yes. Stupid? Probably. But I needed to do something. Within 10 minutes, I had DMs from 3 of Carlos's friends and 1 from his cousin. All variations of what happened, and everything okay? I didn't answer any of them. But I screenshotted every single one. Around 1 p.m., my dad came back. Walked into the kitchen like nothing happened, started making a sandwich. My mom asked where he'd been and he just shrugged and said, "Out." 5 minutes later, there was a knock at the door. Carlos. He looked like hell. Hair still stiff from the coke, same shirt from last night, eyes all wild and puffy. He didn't call, didn't text. Just showed up at my parents' house like he had every right to be there. My dad stood up so fast his chair screeched against the tile. My mom put her hand on my arm and whispered, "Don't move." Carlos came in swinging. Not literally, but close. Loud, demanding, playing the victim. I humiliated him. I made him look bad. I crossed a line. My mom told him to lower his voice, but he just got louder. Waving his arms, pacing, and then he started getting close. Too close. Right in my space, leaning down into my face. My dad stepped between us. Just put himself there, solid and quiet. "Back up," he said. Carlos tried to push past him. Like he was entitled to get in my face in my own parents' kitchen. My dad shoved him back. Not hard, not yet, but enough to make it clear. Carlos lost it. Started yelling, real yelling. Full volume, swearing at my dad, saying he had no right to interfere. My mom was shouting too. I just sat there shaking, gripping my coffee cup so hard my fingers hurt. Carlos tried to go around my dad. My dad blocked him. Carlos grabbed his arm. My dad shoved him again, harder this time. Carlos stumbled into the counter. He looked at me. Like I was supposed to come save him. Like I was supposed to take his side. I just stared back. He stormed out. My dad stood there breathing hard. My mom started crying, which made me want to scream. I went upstairs and locked myself in the guest room. Lay on the bed staring at the ceiling. Listened to my parents arguing downstairs, my mom's voice high and scared, my dad's low and tight. My phone kept buzzing. Missed calls from Carlos. Texts from Alex, "Dude, what happened? Call me. This is getting crazy." Even Becky, "Did he really come to your parents' house?" Word travels fast. I thought about just leaving. Getting in the car and driving somewhere with no service, no people, no Carlos. Just disappearing for a while. But the more I thought about it, the more pissed off I got. Why should I be the one to run? I didn't do anything wrong. Carlos is the one who blew up his own life. And if he thinks he can spin this into some crazy wife destroys innocent husband narrative, he's got another thing coming. So I started pulling up every group chat. Every old text thread with his friends, his cousins, even his mom. I typed out one message. Nothing dramatic. Just the facts. What Carlos said at dinner, word for word. How he acted. How he showed up at my parents' house and tried to fight my dad. If you want to know why I left, I wrote, "Ask Carlos what he said about me last night." Sent it to everyone. Then blocked him again. I know this is just the start. He's going to hate me for this. But honestly? Good. I want him to feel what it's like to have people look at him sideways. To have to explain himself. To lose control of the story for once. If he wants to be the villain, fine. I'll be the villain's worst nightmare. You'd think after sending that message, I'd feel something. Relief. Triumph. Anything. Instead, I just felt tired. Bone deep tired, the kind that sleep doesn't fix. I stayed at my parents' house for the next day and a half. The guest room became my whole world, that sad beige wallpaper, the scratchy blanket my mom insists is perfectly good, the window that looks out at the neighbor's fence. I wore the same sweatpants for 36 hours and nobody said anything. My mom kept bringing me toast like it was medicine. "Eat," she'd say, setting down a plate. "Just eat something." I'd take a bite. She'd nod and leave me alone. Every time my phone buzzed, I'd stare at it like it might explode. Carlos tried the guilt trip texts first. Then the angry ones. Then he started calling my mom. She'd put him on speaker and leave the phone on the kitchen counter so I could hear him rant from upstairs. Something about me ruining his life. Poisoning his family. My mom would wait until he paused for breath, say, "Okay, Carlos," and hang up. He even tried to FaceTime my dad. My dad answered, held the phone up to the ceiling fan for a full 30 seconds, then hung up without saying a word. I almost laughed. But I couldn't hide forever. I needed my stuff. My laptop. My plant. I'd kept that little guy alive for 3 years against all odds, and I wasn't about to let Carlos kill it out of spite. So I texted Carlos to let him know I was coming. No answer. I called. Straight to voicemail. Either he blocked me or his phone died or he was just ignoring me. Whatever. I grabbed my dad's car keys. No way was I hauling boxes on the bus like some tragic movie character. Dad just nodded and said, "Call if you need me." The drive was weirdly quiet. Like the whole city was holding its breath. I kept picturing worst-case scenarios. Carlos trashing the place. Carlos waiting by the door. Carlos sitting on the couch with that smug look, ready to fight. But when I pulled up to our building, everything was normal. Neighbors walking dogs. Kids playing basketball in the street. A bird taking a bath in a puddle. Just an ordinary Saturday. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The apartment smelled stale. Like no windows had been opened in days. Carlos wasn't there. His shoes were gone from the door. His jacket was gone from the hook. But that stupid mug was still on the counter. There was a sticky note on it. Little yellow square right on the handle. "You owe me." No signature. Like who else would it even be from? I almost laughed. Almost. Then I noticed the empty space where the TV used to be. The PlayStation was gone too. Just a pile of dirty laundry on the living room floor where he'd apparently dumped out the hamper looking for something. Real mature. I grabbed garbage bags from under the sink and started filling them. Clothes. Chargers. My laptop. The plant. A stack of mail I'd been meaning to go through. I moved through the apartment like a ghost, grabbing everything that was mine and trying not to look at anything else. Then I stopped in the hallway. Our wedding picture was still on the shelf. We used to argue about that picture. He thought it made him look short. I always told him nobody was looking at his height, they were looking at how happy we were. I left it face down on the shelf. 2 bags full. I was halfway out the door when I heard footsteps on the stairs. Carlos. He saw me and immediately puffed up, face red, already yelling before he even reached the landing. Stealing his stuff. Everything in the apartment was half his. I was acting crazy. The usual hits. He blocked the doorway. Arms crossed. Staring me down. I told him to move. He didn't. I could smell whiskey on his breath. It wasn't even noon. He kept going. I was embarrassing both of us. Making things worse for no reason. If I left now, he'd tell everyone I abandoned him and stole his things. His voice kept getting louder and I just stood there holding my garbage bags like an idiot, trying to figure out how my life got here. "I'm not stealing," I said. "This is my stuff." He didn't move. So I shoved past him. Hard enough to make him stumble. He grabbed my arm. Yanked me back. I yanked free and said the first thing that came into my head. "Touch me again and I'll call your mom." It sounds childish. I know. But his mom is genuinely terrifying, and we both knew it. He let go. I walked out. He stood there muttering, then slammed the door behind me. I sat in my dad's car for a long time before I could start the engine. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I just sat there in the parking lot, gripping the steering wheel, watching people go about their regular Saturday lives like nothing was wrong. When I got back, my mom was in the yard hosing off the patio. Just washing dirt off concrete like the world hadn't tilted off its axis. I dumped my bags in the hallway and tried not to cry. My dad was watching an old game show rerun. He looked up, nodded once, and went back to his crossword. That was his way of saying, "Glad you're back." That night, Alex called. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity got the better of me. He sounded nervous. Like he was afraid I was going to scream at him. "I just wanted to check in," he said. "See if you're okay. Carlos is saying some wild stuff right now." "What kind of wild stuff?" He hesitated. "He's telling people you're unhinged. That you attacked him at the apartment. Tried to steal the TV." I laughed. Actually laughed out loud. I think that freaked Alex out more than if I'd screamed. He said Becky didn't believe Carlos either. But some of their other friends were starting to pick sides. I wasn't surprised. Carlos has always needed an audience. He's the kind of person who can't stand not being the center of attention. If someone else is getting sympathy, he'll burn the whole place down just to get it back. I think that's why he went so hard at dinner. I wasn't playing along. I wasn't laughing at his jokes, wasn't giving him the supportive wife routine. And he couldn't handle it. I used to think it was insecurity. Now I think he just likes having control. That's why he's spinning so hard now. He can't stand that he doesn't control the narrative anymore. The next few days were chaos. Carlos went nuclear on social media. Vague posts about betrayal. Being stabbed in the back. A photo of his ruined shirt with some dramatic caption about violence in relationships. I scrolled past without stopping. Becky kept texting. Half gossip, half trying to get me to spill more details. I gave her nothing. Alex sent memes. Bad ones. Like he was trying to lighten the mood with the world's worst coping mechanism. My mom kept telling me to block everyone. I didn't. I wanted to see what Carlos would do next. Turned out, plenty. Saturday afternoon, his mom called me. She never calls me. Birthdays, Christmas, that's it. So I knew it was bad before I even answered. She didn't say hello. Just started yelling. I was destroying the family. Carlos was inconsolable. What had I done to him? I tried to explain. She didn't want to hear it. I needed to come home and fix things. I hung up on her. A few hours later, Carlos showed up at my parents' house again. This time he didn't bother knocking. Just walked right in like he owned the place. My dad was in the kitchen. Carlos went straight for him, shouting that he needed to talk to his wife. My dad told him to get out. Carlos started shoving. My mom started screaming. I came running down the stairs. Carlos was right in my dad's face, red as a tomato. My dad shoved him back. Carlos shoved him again. Then my dad punched him in the chest. Not hard. Just enough to make a point. Enough to say, that's far enough. Carlos backed up, breathing heavy. Then he started shouting at me. Come home. Fix this. If you don't, I'll make sure everyone sees what kind of person you really are. My mom told him to get out. He wouldn't move. She whipped out her phone. I'm calling the cops. That got his attention. He stormed out, slamming the door so hard a picture fell off the wall. After that, he started messaging everyone. My old friends from college. People I haven't talked to in years. My cousin who lives 3 states away. All the same story. I was unstable. I'd lost it. I was ruining his life. Some people believed him. Some didn't. My group chats were a mess. My aunt who hasn't spoken to me since Christmas 2 years ago texted my mom to ask if I was okay. I spent a lot of time in the backyard. Just sitting on the steps, scrolling through my phone, watching the neighbor's dog dig holes. Every time my phone buzzed, I jumped. I started thinking, if Carlos wants a war, fine. I'll give him one. I went back to the apartment. This time I brought my dad. Not because I needed backup, because I wanted him there when I did what I was about to do. I packed up everything that was mine. The good towels. The nice pillows. My favorite mugs. The new kettle I bought 6 months ago and he said was unnecessary. I left him the stained sheets and the mismatched plates he insisted on keeping. Then I boxed up all his stuff. Every hoodie. Every sock. Every stupid baseball cap. Drove it to his mom's house, dumped the boxes on her porch, rang the bell, and left before she could open the door. Carlos blew up my phone again. Calls. Texts. A voicemail where he called me petty. Said I was ruining everything. Trying to turn his family against him. I didn't answer. He started using different numbers. Burner phones, I guess. Texting from numbers I didn't recognize. I blocked each one. He tried messaging me on every app. Snapchat. Messenger. Even LinkedIn, of all places. I blocked him everywhere. The next week was a blur. I started looking for my own place. Something small. Somewhere I could start over. My parents hovered, my mom offering advice I didn't ask for, my dad just grunting and changing the channel. Friends dropped off food and made awkward jokes about kicking Carlos to the curb. I appreciated it, I guess. But mostly I just wanted to be alone. Then one night, Becky messaged me. She said Carlos was telling everyone I'd stolen from him. That I trashed the apartment. That I'd gone off the deep end. Alex didn't believe him, she said, but a lot of people were starting to wonder. I sent her a thumbs up emoji. I didn't have the energy to fight every single rumor. Then she said something that made me pause. He's planning something, she wrote. I don't know what. But he's acting weird. More paranoid than usual. He keeps saying he's going to make sure everyone knows the truth. I asked if she knew what he meant. I'm staying out of it, she said. I put down my phone and stared at the wall for a long time. That's when I decided. If Carlos wanted to play dirty, I was going to finish this. I pulled up every text. Every DM. Every group chat where he'd said something nasty about me, about his family, about his friends. I screenshotted everything. Then I wrote out one message. Not dramatic. Not embellished. Just the truth. What he said at dinner. What he said to my dad. What he texted me. All of it. And I sent it to everyone. His friends. His cousins. His mom. If anyone wants proof, I wrote, I have receipts. The fallout was immediate. Carlos's friends started messaging me. Some apologizing. Some demanding answers. Some just lurking. His mom called my mom screaming about family shame. Alex sent a string of texts, I'm so sorry. I didn't know it was this bad. Becky said she was done with all of it. Even my cousin texted to ask if I was okay. If I needed anything. I turned off my phone and went for a walk. When I got back, my dad was standing in the kitchen with his arms crossed, looking like he wanted to break something. You done with all this? He asked. I shrugged. My mom hugged me. Told me she was proud of me. Which just made me want to cry. I went upstairs, sat on the bed, and stared at the wall. I didn't know what Carlos would do next. But I knew I was ready for it. I wasn't hiding anymore. I wasn't running. And I definitely wasn't backing down. The funny thing about blowing up your entire life is that nothing happens right away. I kept waiting for some kind of explosion. Another confrontation. A dramatic phone call. Carlos showing up with a bullhorn, I don't know. But after I sent that message and blocked everyone again, things just got quiet. Not peaceful quiet. The kind of quiet before a storm when the air gets heavy and you can't tell if it's going to rain or just sit there suffocating you. I spent those first few days jumping at every sound. Doorbell? Carlos. Phone buzz? Carlos. Car with a loud engine driving down the street? Carlos, definitely Carlos, coming to finish the fight. I'd hold my breath and wait and nothing would happen. Just the mailman. Just my mom's friend from church. Just some neighbor kid with a muffler problem. My body didn't know how to be still anymore. I started apartment hunting in earnest. Dragged myself to 6 different places in 2 days, all of them wrong for different reasons. Too expensive. Too far. Too creepy. One place had this weird smell in the hallway that I couldn't identify and didn't want to. I'd stand in these empty rooms and try to picture my life there and come up blank. My mom offered to come with me. You need a second pair of eyes, she said. Make sure they're not trying to rip you off. Mom, I'm 32. I've rented apartments before. I know, but she stopped. Started again. I just want to help. I let her come. She was annoyingly useful, honestly. Spotted the water damage under the kitchen sink I'd walked right past. Asked about parking and laundry and whether the neighbors seemed loud. By the 3rd place, she was negotiating with the landlord about the security deposit while I stood in the corner trying not to cry. I got the apartment. It's small. Like, really small. The kitchen and living room are basically the same room and the bedroom barely fits a bed. But there's this one window that gets morning light and the walls aren't white, they're this soft cream color that feels warm even when it's empty. I signed the lease with a hand that wouldn't stop shaking and walked out feeling like I'd just done something huge and terrifying and maybe a little brave. Now I just had to furnish it. Carlos, meanwhile, was not being quiet. I heard about it through the grapevine. My cousin sent me screenshots. Carlos had posted a whole thread about betrayal and loyalty and how people never really know what goes on in a marriage. Lots of vague booking. Lots of sad song lyrics. At one point he posted a photo of a stormy sky with the caption, "Some people bring the storm and then blame you for the rain." I read it out loud to my mom and she actually snorted coffee through her nose. Did he really just compare himself to a storm? I think he's the victim of the storm, actually. So he's the sky? We're not supposed to think about it too hard. She was still wiping coffee off her chin. Honey, I know this isn't funny. I know. It's really not funny. I know. We looked at each other for a second and then both started laughing. The kind of laughter that's not really about humor. The kind that's about not screaming. It didn't last. Nothing good ever does. The legal stuff started filtering in. I'd called a lawyer someone my mom's friend recommended, a no-nonsense woman named Diane who answered the phone on the first ring and asked more questions in 5 minutes than I'd asked myself in 5 years. She walked me through the process like I was a child learning to tie my shoes. Patient, but brisk. No judgment. It's going to take time, she said. And he's going to make it harder than it needs to be. That's what people like him do. People like him. I'd never thought of Carlos as a type before. He was just Carlos. My husband. The guy who left his socks everywhere and made that stupid joke about my cooking and held my hand at his grandmother's funeral. But Diane talked about him like he was a category. Like she'd seen 100 Carloses and would see 100 more. He's going to fight over stupid stuff, she said. The couch, the blender, old camping gear. He'll try to make you pay for his moving costs. He'll claim you stole things. It's not about the money. It's about control. What do I do? Let him fight. Don't give in. Don't engage. Document everything. I started documenting. Carlos wanted the couch? Fine. I sent Diane the receipt showing I paid for it before we even moved in together. Carlos wanted the security deposit? I had photos of the apartment before we moved in and after we moved out, every scuff on the wall, every ding in the hardwood. Carlos claimed I'd taken his grandmother's necklace? I had a text from him from 2 years ago where he admitted he lost it at a hotel in Chicago. Receipts, baby. But documentation doesn't fix the other stuff. The 3 a.m. insomnia. The way I'd reach for my phone to text him something funny I saw on the street and then remember I couldn't. The reflex of we that kept tripping me up. We need milk. We should see that movie. We have to be at my parents' on Sunday. There was no we anymore. There was just me. I started therapy. Not because my mom kept suggesting it, although she did, constantly, with the gentle persistence of someone who's been right about these things before. But because I woke up one morning and realized I hadn't gone a single hour without thinking about Carlos in 2 weeks. That couldn't be normal. The therapist's name is Miriam. She has gray hair and glasses on a chain and a voice so calm it makes me want to take a nap. I sat in her office for the first time and didn't know what to say, so I just started talking and didn't stop for 50 minutes. About the dinner. About the texts. About my dad standing in the doorway. About the sticky note on the mug. You owe me, I said. What does that even mean? I don't owe him anything. Miriam tilted her head. What do you think he wants you to owe him? I thought about it. An apology. For humiliating him in front of his friends. For leaving. For not being the wife he thought he was getting. And what do you owe yourself? I didn't have an answer for that. The days started blending together. Apartment hunting and lawyer calls and therapy appointments and my mom's toast. Carlos kept posting, kept texting from new numbers, kept trying to pull me back into the fight. I blocked and ignored and tried not to check my phone every 5 minutes. Some days I felt strong. Like I'd done the hardest thing and everything after was just cleanup. Some days I sat in my car in the parking lot of my new apartment and cried until my eyes were raw and my throat ached and I couldn't remember why I'd done any of this. On one of those days, I called my dad. He answered on the first ring. Didn't say hello. Just waited. I don't know if I can do this, I said. Silence. Then, you're already doing it. But what if I can't finish? Don't have to finish today. Just don't quit. I wiped my nose on my sleeve. That's not very inspirational. I'm not inspirational. I'm your dad. Pause. You want inspirational, call your mother. I laughed, or maybe I coughed, or maybe I cried a little. Hard to tell anymore. Dad? Yeah. Thanks for punching him. I didn't punch him. I pushed him. Same thing. Legally, it's very different. I laughed for real that time. He didn't, but I could hear it in his voice. The almost smile. Come home, he said. Your mom made too much soup again. I went home. The wedding invitation came on a Tuesday. My cousin, the one who read Carlos's note out loud at dinner, was getting married. I'd known about it for months, had already bought a dress and everything. But seeing the actual invitation in my hand, embossed gold lettering and all, made it real. Both of us were invited. Obviously. The whole family was invited. Carlos was still, technically, my husband. And his name was right there next to mine on the response card. I stared at it for a long time. I'm not going, I told my mom. You have to go. Why? So everyone can stare at me and whisper? So you don't let him win by hiding. He's already winning. Is he? She sat down across from me at the kitchen table. Same table I'd sat at when I was 10, and she told me the kids who were mean to me were just jealous. When I was 16 and she said the boy who broke my heart wasn't worth my tears. When I was 23 and she said, "Are you sure about this?" and I said yes and she let me. He's living in a tiny apartment on the other side of town, she said. His wife left him. His friends are texting you, not him. His own mother stopped returning his calls. And you're sitting here in my kitchen, wearing my bathrobe, eating my toast, telling me he's winning? I looked down. She was right about the bathrobe. It had little flowers on it. I look terrible, I said. You look like someone who's been through something. That's different. I don't want to be looked at all. Then don't be looked at. Go, eat too many appetizers, dance with your cousins, and leave before cake. But don't stay home because you're afraid of what people might think. I thought about it. Thought about Carlos across the room. Thought about his mom glaring at me. Thought about everyone whispering, everyone taking sides, everyone watching to see what the crazy wife would do. Then I thought about my cousin, who read Carlos's pathetic note out loud just to embarrass him. Who texted me screenshots of his sad boy social media posts with laughing emojis. Who was getting married to a guy who looked at her like she'd hung the moon. I RSVP'd. The week before the wedding, I moved into my new apartment. It took 3 trips with my dad's truck and 1 with my mom's SUV. My cousin showed up to help carry boxes and immediately started rearranging my furniture. My aunt sent a plant I'm terrified I'll kill. My friend from work dropped off a 6-pack and a housewarming card that said congrats on ditching the dead weight in glitter pen. My mom hung my towels in the bathroom and folded them so they all faced the same direction. My dad fixed the sticking door and didn't say a word about the boxes still stacked in the corner. I sat on my new floor surrounded by my old things and tried to feel something. I felt tired. I felt grateful. I felt like I'd climbed a mountain and discovered there was another mountain right behind it. But I also felt, for the first time in weeks, like I was standing on my own ground. The night before the wedding, I tried on my dress. It still fit. That felt like a small miracle. I stood in front of my new mirror and turned side to side, checking for lumps, bumps, anything that would give people a reason to stare. The woman looking back at me had the same face I'd always had. Same eyes, same mouth, same nervous habit of biting her lip. But different. You look beautiful, my mom said from the doorway. She wasn't supposed to be here. She'd just shown up, like she always did, with a bottle of wine and no plan. I looked tired. You look like you've been through something. That's different. She smiled. I said that already. You can say it again. She came in and sat on the edge of my bed. Not my bed, my new bed, in my new apartment, that I'd paid for with my own money. I was still getting used to that. What are you going to do if he talks to you? Ignore him. What if he follows you? Find a crowd. What if he makes a scene? I thought about it. Carlos making a scene. Carlos needing to be the center of attention. Carlos so desperate to control the narrative that he'd burn everything down just to feel like he was still holding the match. Then everyone will see what I've been seeing, I said. And it won't be my problem anymore. My mom nodded. She didn't say, I'm proud of you, or you're so strong, or any of the things I was half afraid she'd say. She just sat there on my bed in my new apartment and poured us both a glass of wine. We didn't talk about Carlos. We talked about my cousin's fiancé, who my mom secretly thought was a little dull but very reliable. We talked about my dad's cholesterol and whether he was actually taking his medication or just pretending. We talked about the neighbor's dog who kept digging holes and whether someone should say something or just let the dog be a dog. Normal things. Small things. Things that had nothing to do with any of it. When she left, I stood in my doorway and watched her walk to her car. She turned back and said, get some sleep. Okay. And eat breakfast tomorrow. Don't try to fit into that dress on an empty stomach. Mom. I'm serious. You'll faint at the altar and it'll be a whole thing. Not my altar. Doesn't matter. A wedding is a wedding. Someone always faints. I laughed. She waved. Her taillights disappeared around the corner. I went inside and locked my own door. My door, in my apartment, with my name on the lease. I slept better that night than I had in weeks. The day of the wedding was bright and clear and absolutely beautiful, which felt almost offensive. Like the universe should have at least provided some dramatic weather to match the occasion. A thunderstorm. A power outage. A plague of locusts. But no. Just perfect, cloudless California sunshine. I got dressed slowly. Makeup, hair, the dress I hadn't worn since before the pandemic. I looked at myself in the mirror one more time and decided this was as good as it was going to get. My dad was waiting in the car. He didn't say anything about how I looked, which was his way of saying I looked fine. We drove to the venue in comfortable silence, the kind you can only have with someone who's known you your whole life. Your mother's already there, he said. Saving seats. Good. She's probably already cried. Definitely. He nodded. Kept his eyes on the road. Then, quietly, you don't have to stay. If it's too much, you can always leave. I know. But you should stay. I looked at him. His jaw was set in that stubborn way he gets when he's decided something and isn't going to change his mind. Why? Because you're not the one who should have to leave. We pulled into the parking lot. The venue was beautiful old stone and climbing ivy, string lights crisscrossing the courtyard. People were already milling around, dressed up and laughing, holding champagne flutes and programs tied with ribbon. Normal people at a normal wedding, having a normal day. And somewhere in that crowd was Carlos. I took a breath. Straightened my dress. Opened the car door. Okay, I said. Let's do this. The ceremony was fine. That sounds dismissive, but I mean it genuinely, it was fine. My cousin looked beautiful. Her husband cried when he saw her walking down the aisle. The flowers were pretty, the music was nice, the officiant told a cute story about how they met. Normal wedding stuff. Good stuff. I sat between my parents and tried to focus on the vows, on the joy, on anything except the back of Carlos's head 6 rows ahead of me. He was sitting with his mom. I could see her rigid posture, the way she kept glancing over her shoulder like she was tracking me. Carlos didn't look back once. The reception was at the same venue. String lights, long tables, centerpieces with candles and eucalyptus. I grabbed a glass of champagne and found a spot near the edge of the patio where I could see everyone coming and going. Strategic positioning. My mom came over. You okay? Fine. You're lurking. I'm strategically positioning myself. You're lurking. She took my elbow. Come say hi to your aunt. I let her pull me away. We made the rounds, aunts, uncles, cousins I hadn't seen in years. Everyone was polite. Nobody mentioned Carlos. A few people gave me slightly longer hugs than usual. My aunt from Florida squeezed my hand and said, "You look good, honey. Really good." I didn't know if she meant it or if she was just being kind. Either way, I appreciated it. Dinner was served. I ate too much. My mom was right about the fainting thing. The champagne helped. My dad made a joke about the rubber chicken entree and I laughed so hard I almost choked on a green bean. For a few minutes, I forgot to scan the room for Carlos. Then I looked up and he was standing at the bar. Staring at me. I looked away. Focused on my plate. Told myself I didn't need to check if he was still staring. Checked anyway. He was. My mom noticed. Ignore him. I'm trying. He's trying to get a reaction. Don't give him one. I didn't. I finished my dinner. Talked to my cousin's new husband about his terrible fantasy football team. Helped an elderly aunt find the bathroom. Did everything except acknowledge that Carlos was still standing at that bar, nursing a drink, watching me like I was a puzzle he was trying to solve. Then I made a mistake. I went to the bathroom alone. Not really a mistake, I'd been alone all night and nothing happened. Carlos had stayed at his table, his mom glued to his side, both of them radiating misery. I thought the worst was over. I was washing my hands when he came in. Not the women's bathroom, he wasn't that stupid. He was waiting in the hallway, leaning against the wall like he'd been there for a while. Casual. Like it was no big deal that he'd cornered me outside the bathroom at our cousin's wedding. We need to talk, he said. We don't need to do anything. Just give me 5 minutes. I kept walking. He followed. Come on. You owe me that much. I stopped. Turned around. I don't owe you anything. He held up his hands. Placating. Okay. You're right. You don't owe me anything. He ran his hand through his hair. It was longer than usual, unkempt. He looked tired. Not sad, exactly. Just worn out. Look, he said. I know I messed up. I know I said some things I shouldn't have. I was drunk and stupid and I didn't think you'd actually leave. I stared at him. I've been going crazy, he said. Everyone's taking your side. My own mom won't talk to me. Alex won't return my calls. I can't sleep, I can't eat, he stopped. Took a breath. I just want things to go back to how they were. Things aren't going back to how they were. I know. I know. But maybe we could, I don't know. Talk. Really talk. Without lawyers and parents and everyone else in the middle. He looked at me with those eyes. The same eyes that looked at me on our first date, on our wedding day, on every ordinary morning when he brought me coffee in bed. I'd spent 5 years looking into those eyes, believing they meant something. You had 5 years to talk, I said. You chose to tell your friends I was desperate and average and lucky you were bored enough to marry me. I didn't mean it. Yes, you did. No, I was trying to be funny. You know how I get. I say stupid stuff when I'm trying to impress people. That's not an excuse. I'm not trying to excuse it. I'm trying to explain. I don't need an explanation. I need you to leave me alone. He stepped closer. Just tell me what I have to do. I'll do anything. Therapy. Counseling. Whatever you want. Just don't throw away 5 years over one stupid night. I looked at him. This man I'd loved. This man I'd built a life with. This man who stood in front of me now, finally saying all the things I'd wanted to hear for weeks, months, maybe years. But he wasn't saying them because he understood what he'd done. He was saying them because he was losing. Because his friends weren't returning his calls. Because his mom was embarrassed. Because he couldn't stand the idea that people were looking at him sideways. He wasn't sorry. He was cornered. Carlos, I said. Go back to your table. Just go back to your table. Something shifted in his face. The pleading vanished, replaced by something harder. Something I recognized. So that's it, he said. You're just going to walk away. After everything. I already walked away. You just didn't believe me. He opened his mouth. Closed it. For a second, I thought maybe he'd finally run out of words. Then he grabbed my arm. Not hard. Not like before. Just his fingers wrapping around my wrist, holding me in place. Like he thought if he could just keep me here long enough, he could talk me back into being his. Let go of me. Just listen, I said, let go. He didn't. I didn't scream. I didn't yank away. I just stood there and looked at his hand on my arm, then looked at him, and waited. He let go. Don't touch me again, I said. Not ever. I walked away. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. My hands were shaking. But I didn't run. I walked back to the reception hall like I had somewhere important to be. I found my dad standing near the dessert table, holding a plate with 3 different kinds of cake on it. Hey, I said. Can we go soon? He looked at my face. Set down the plate. Yeah, he said. We can go. We were halfway to the car when the yelling started. Carlos's voice, carrying across the courtyard. Then his mom's, sharp and frantic. Then other voices, people trying to calm him down, people telling him to leave, people just reacting to the sound of someone coming apart in public. I kept walking. My dad put his hand on my back, just below my shoulder blades. Not guiding me, not rushing me. Just there. Solid and warm and steady. We got in the car. Drove home in silence. The whole way, I didn't look back. The legal stuff dragged on for weeks. Carlos fought over everything. The couch. The blender. An old camping stove we'd used exactly once and both hated. He claimed I'd stolen his grandmother's necklace, even though he'd admitted in a text 2 years ago that he lost it at a hotel in Chicago. He tried to make me pay for his moving costs, his lawyer's fees, his therapy. Diane handled it. Document, respond, don't engage. He'd make a demand, she'd send a counteroffer. He'd threaten to take me to court, she'd say see you there. He'd send a rambling email full of accusations and grievances, she'd forward it to me with a single-word subject line, Exhibit D. I signed papers. I checked boxes. I initialed pages and pages of legal documents until my hand cramped and my eyes blurred and my signature started to look like someone else's. And then one day, it was done. I sat in Diane's office and watched her stamp the final page. She handed me a copy and said, "Congratulations. You're officially divorced." I waited to feel something. Relief. Closure. Vindication. Instead, I just felt tired. "Thank you," I said. She nodded. "Take care of yourself." I took my papers and drove home. Sat on my couch, my new couch, in my new apartment, that I'd picked out myself and paid for with my own money, and stared at the wall for a long time. Then I called my mom. "It's done," I said. She didn't say, "I told you so," or "you did the right thing," or any of the things I was half dreading. She just said, "I'll bring dinner." She showed up an hour later with lasagna and garlic bread and a bottle of wine. My dad came too, which surprised me. He doesn't do emotional moments. But he sat on my couch and ate lasagna and watched some nature documentary about penguins and didn't say much. It was perfect. I don't have a neat ending for this. There's no dramatic final confrontation where Carlos got what he deserved. No moment of public vindication where everyone finally saw him for who he really was. No new love interest, no glowing transformation, no tidy moral wrapped in a bow. Carlos moved into that tiny apartment on the other side of town. He still posts sometimes. Vague quotes about betrayal. Photos of sunsets with captions about moving on. Every few weeks, someone sends me a screenshot with a laughing crying emoji. I look at it, roll my eyes, and keep scrolling. His mom called mine once more, about 6 weeks after the wedding. I don't know what she said. My mom listened, said okay, Carmen, and hung up. When I asked about it, she just shook her head and changed the subject. Alex and Becky both reached out separately, a few months later. I met Alex for coffee once. It was awkward and neither of us knew what to say, but he paid for my latte and told me he was sorry he didn't speak up that night. I told him it wasn't his job to save me. He looked relieved. Becky sends me memes sometimes. I send back thumbs up emojis. It's not a friendship, exactly, but it's not a friendship. I don't know what it is. I'm not sure I need to define it. My cousin had her honeymoon in Costa Rica. She came back with a tan and 100 photos of her husband holding sloths. She sent me the best one and I put it on my refrigerator. My plant is still alive. I'm not sure how. I forget to water it for weeks at a time, then panic and drown it, then forget again. But it keeps putting out new leaves anyway. Maybe it's just stubborn. I got promoted at work. Nothing huge, just a small raise and a slightly better title. But my boss said my projects have been really strong lately and that felt good. I bought myself a nice pen to celebrate. It seemed like the kind of thing adult women in movies do. I still have bad days. Days when I wake up and reach for my phone to text him something funny and then remember I can't. Days when I'm standing in the grocery store trying to remember if I need olive oil and suddenly I'm crying in the condiment aisle. Days when I think maybe I overreacted, maybe it wasn't that bad, maybe I should have tried harder. On those days, I go back and read what I wrote that night. Not for validation, not for revenge. Just to remind myself. It was that bad. I didn't overreact. I tried enough. On good days, I don't think about him at all. I go to work. I hang out with friends. I water my stubborn plant and watch reality TV with my mom and help my dad fix things around their house. I cook dinner in my tiny kitchen and eat it on my secondhand couch and sometimes I don't even check my phone once. My therapist Miriam says this is progress. You're building a life that doesn't revolve around him, she said. That's the whole goal. It doesn't feel like a goal. It just feels like living. Last week, I went back to that restaurant. Not on purpose, exactly. I was meeting a friend from work and she picked it without knowing. I almost said something. Almost suggested somewhere else. But then I thought, no. I'm not letting him take another thing from me. So I went. The place looked different in daylight. Brighter. Less moody. The table where it happened was occupied by a couple who looked like they were on a first date, laughing too loudly, touching each other's hands across the table. I watched them for a second and then looked away. My friend asked if I was okay. I said I was fine. And I was. The other day, my dad asked if I was happy. We were in his garage. He was organizing his tools, a never-ending project that seems to exist mostly so he has somewhere to go when the house gets too loud. I was sitting on an overturned bucket, handing him screwdrivers. I don't know, I said. I think so. Most days. He grunted. Took the Phillips head. Is that the wrong answer? Nope. Just an honest one. He went back to his tools. I handed him a wrench. The garage smelled like sawdust and old memories. A radio somewhere was playing classic rock. Your mother thinks you should date, he said. My mother thinks everyone should date. She's not wrong. I didn't say anything. He didn't push. We worked in silence for a while. Then he said, you don't have to be happy all the time. Just most of it. Is that your advice? That's your mother's advice. Mine is, don't date anyone who owns more than 3 pairs of white sneakers. I laughed. He almost smiled. Thanks, Dad. He nodded. Handed me the bucket. Put this back where you found it. I don't know what comes next. Maybe I'll meet someone. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll stay in this tiny apartment forever, watering my stubborn plant and eating dinner on my secondhand couch. Maybe I'll move to a different city, get a different job, become a completely different person. Maybe I'll never stop flinching when my phone buzzes with an unknown number. Maybe I'll always scan wedding receptions for the back of his head. Maybe some part of me will always be sitting at that table, frozen with my wine glass halfway to my mouth, wondering if this is really happening. But also, maybe it won't always be like that. Maybe the flinching will fade. Maybe the scanning will become automatic, then occasional, then rare. Maybe one day I'll realize I haven't thought about him in weeks and it won't feel like a betrayal of the woman I used to be. It'll just feel like Tuesday. My therapist says healing isn't linear. I hate that phrase. It's one of those things that's obviously true but somehow still annoying to hear. Like everything happens for a reason, or what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But she's right. Some days I feel like I've climbed a mountain. Other days I feel like I'm still at the bottom, looking up, not sure if I have the energy to even start. The difference is that now I know both feelings are real. And neither one is permanent. Last night, I dreamed about Carlos. It wasn't a nightmare, exactly. We were in our old apartment and he was making coffee and everything was normal. Not good, not bad. Just normal. He handed me a mug and I took it and then I woke up. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, waiting for the grief to hit. Waiting for the ache, the longing, the hollow emptiness I'd felt in those first weeks. It didn't come. I just felt. Nothing. Not forgiveness, not anger, not sadness. Just the quiet awareness that he was no longer the center of my emotional universe. That he was just a person I used to know, living a life I used to share. I got up, made my own coffee, and got ready for work. So that's it. That's the story. No dramatic finale. No vindication. No moment where Carlos finally understood what he did and apologized and we all clapped. Just the slow, unglamorous work of putting one foot in front of the other until the ground stopped shaking. If you're reading this and you're where I was that night sitting at a table, frozen, wondering if you're crazy or overreacting or just too sensitive, here's what I wish someone had told me: you're not crazy. It's that bad. And you don't owe anyone another minute of your life. Walking away is hard. Staying is harder. But the hardest part isn't the leaving. It's the staying gone. It's the 1,000 small decisions you make every day to not go back, not answer the call, not believe that maybe this time it'll be different. But it gets easier. Not all at once, not in some big dramatic way. Just little by little, day by day, until one morning you wake up and realize you didn't think about him yesterday. And then you realize that's okay. I still have his mug. The stupid one with the crusty ring at the bottom. I don't know why I kept it. Maybe because throwing it away felt like admitting something I wasn't ready to admit. Maybe because some small part of me wanted to remember what it felt like to be so angry I couldn't see straight. Or maybe I just forgot to throw it out. It's sitting on my counter now, next to the plant that won't die. I use it for pens. My mom still asks if I'm okay. I always say yes, even when it's not completely true. My dad still grunts and changes the channel. My friends still send memes and make plans and fill up my calendar with ordinary, wonderful, unremarkable things. And me? I'm here. I'm okay. I'm still figuring it out. Carlos got what he wanted. A fight, an audience, a mess. But he lost the one thing he couldn't control. Not me, I was never his to control. He lost the story. He lost the narrative. He lost the version of events where he was the wronged party, the misunderstood husband, the victim of a woman who just couldn't take a joke. Everyone saw what he really was. Not because I exposed him, although I did. But because he couldn't stop exposing himself. That's what men like Carlos never understand. They think if they just keep talking, keep spinning, keep convincing, they can shape reality into whatever they need it to be. But reality doesn't care about your narrative. It just is what it is. And eventually, everyone else figures it out too. I'm not waiting for an apology. I'm not waiting for closure. I'm not waiting for anything from him. I'm just living my life. Small and ordinary and mine. That's the happy ending, I guess. Not fireworks or revenge or poetic justice. Just a Tuesday night on my second-hand couch, watching bad reality TV, laughing at something stupid with my mom. Carlos is still out there, probably. Still posting, still spinning, still trying to convince someone, anyone, that he's the real victim here. I don't know. I don't care. I'm done listening.